So one of the things that we talked about is understanding our power traits, not just our students' power traits. These are things that are not just relative to students. We all have power traits. When I'm talking about power traits, you all, I am talking about how we learn, how we work, how we play at home. This is not just in the classroom. And so I'm going to be sharing 5 different aspects of power traits that if we can bring them together, it's going to make it easier for us to be able to heed the seed of who our students are and not just taking one piece. No one will make a cake and say, oh, I just appreciate the flour, but I only really want to look at the eggs. No, it's when you put all those things together that we make something that we can work with. So the first aspect of power traits that we're going to be talking about is called dispositions. So let's talk about it. All right. So when we're talking about dispositions, we are talking about something that is more inborn than developed. This is something that is hardwired into us. We can't just take this off and on like a coat, and we need to be understood and embraced for who we are. So let's talk about it. When we talk about dispositions, we're talking about how we work, how we communicate, how we learn. It affects our behavior. And the truth be told, many misunderstandings happen because people are operating from 2 different dispositions, not necessarily because there's defiance or I'm just trying to make life difficult for you. You know, I have young people, children, I work with students, and a lot of times the conflict would arise because I see things one way and they see things a different way. So when we're talking about dispositions, there is a price that we are going to pay if we don't identify, acknowledge, and accept them. We've all heard it said before, if we don't acknowledge or if students don't feel safe, learning cannot take place. We don't get the acknowledgement that we need. We don't get the acceptance that we need when we are not embraced for who we are and who we bring to the table. Now, are there some dispositions that are more celebrated than others? Absolutely. But they all are necessary and are equally valuable. So what we're going to do right now is, I know you guys had access to, if you have not already taken it, please take the quick power traits assessment, because once again, it's not just the students that we're trying to understand, but these students are also interacting with you, and you bring your own power traits to the table. Because the goal is not to make everything child-centered, but child-considered. Because these students have to learn how to interact with one another, interact at home with parents and siblings, and also with their teachers. And so there needs to be honor all the way around. So we're going to be talking about just a quick snapshots of the 5 dispositions. And that is not to box anyone in, but it is to give us a point of reference so we can say, oh, when we see students coming or they see us coming, they understand, I can definitely tell that this young person or my colleague has some spontaneous tendencies, or organized or curious or supportive or imaginative. So this is just giving us a lens that we can begin to see our students and better identify what it is that they are needing. It is my firm belief that until you can see them, you can't reach them. And if you can't reach them, then you absolutely cannot teach them. So my goal in our time together today is to give us the ability to see just a little bit better so that we can reach a little bit better and that we can prepare to teach a little bit better. Let's jump into it. These are the 5 dispositions. So let's talk about spontaneous. So when we talk about the spontaneous disposition, these are our students, adults, doesn't matter. These are our movers. They like things to be fun and flexible and in the moment and to be challenging and relevant now. They need to move and to act and to do. And so these are typically those young people that probably get into a little bit of trouble sometimes because we're just like, trying to corral all that energy. They can often be labeled ADHD or hyperactive. So we want to even be careful even with the labels, because what are you telling me if I am by nature a mover and an actor and a doer, and I get these labels and now I feel like who I am is a defective seed? So I want to encourage us. Yes, we need to teach everybody how to navigate what setting they're in and what's appropriate when, but if they can understand that they are at least seen and embrace that this is a need that they have, I wonder how much better it would be for them to navigate the things that we're asking of them. Next, we have our organized disposition. This is our school preferred disposition for the most part. These are our planners. Oh my gosh, they love the structure and the order and routine and the outlines. And they're kind of asking you, when is this due? When is the end goal? Like, they're productive and consistent and they like schedules. So without the organized disposition, I guarantee you, even where you guys are sitting right now would not be happening if someone wasn't behind the scenes working out those details. So I am so thankful for the organized disposition. All right, let's go to the next one. We have our curious disposition. They like to discover and explore. They are experimental by nature. They like to offer ideas and theories and solutions to problems, and they need that unscheduled time for projects and exploration. They like to question and design, and they will debate, but they will only debate if they feel like they have someone who can lend credibility to the discussion. So you may call their name and you may feel like, they ignore me, like what's going on here? It's not that. They are focused on solving something or exploring something. So can you imagine sometimes the challenge that they feel in the classroom when they are just getting to the thick of it, and now it's already time to move on to something else, or now they're having to do all of these projects that were not of their choosing. So when we talk about the debaters, and it's coming from a place of their identity. So if we can understand this, then we can embrace it a little bit more and begin to find strategies and tactics around how to motivate the curious person. Next, we have supportive disposition. This can also be a more school preferred disposition. These are those who need that interaction. They're social by nature. They love interacting and relating, and they're people centered. They believe in fairness. So these are the ones who will come to other people's defense, and you're like, this is not even your issue. I don't understand what's going on here. But they feel like it's their issue because they are connected. They like cooperative interaction. So these are the ones who are excited when you say, let's get in groups, let's talk about it, get in your dyads. They love it. They like warm and harmonious atmospheres. And if you need team spirit, you absolutely need them in the room. And they also need unscheduled, flexible time just to communicate and to process. So when you are trying to get them to understand something or teach something, you may want to go the route of biography because they care from the lens of people. So that's our supportive disposition, needing to interact. And last but not least, we have our imaginative disposition. They are creative by nature, very observant, artistic expression, made like nature. They need escape places. So they really do need to be surrounded by things that are beautiful aesthetically, because that impacts their motivation. Absolutely. They bring wonderment. They also need that unscheduled, flexible alone time. They like to think, dream, and work on projects. So can you guys imagine what it's like to have people who actually need unscheduled time, people who actually need time to think and to dream and to work on their own projects? And then they come into these other places where they have these external expectations placed on them on a regular basis. So I'm just saying, yes, there's things that we have to do, that we need to further our growth and development, but we also need to acknowledge that these things are needs as we're processing their educational plan. So I want to encourage you guys, let's be careful not to label so quickly the hyperactive, the ADD, the ADHD. I know those are very real things, but sometimes it's a matter of someone's disposition and they just need an outlet to really shine in those areas that we're asking them to do. All right. So real quick, in our table, so I know that interaction is important for those supportive disposition folks. I want you guys at your table, actually be like 45 seconds. I want you to identify one thing that you needed to succeed. Now we're thinking about dispositions now. Or what was one thing that caused you to feel unsuccessful because it wasn't acknowledged when you were in school? What was the one thing that you needed as you were kind of listening to the descriptions of the dispositions? Did you need that alone time? Did you need that interaction? What was it that either caused you to succeed or feel like, man, the odds are stacked against me? All right. So I want you guys to look at who's in the room, because even when your students come back, you're going to identify who's in the room and just recognizing that these things are needs. They're just not like a garment that we can take on and off. So to ask a student not to be spontaneous, you're basically saying, don't be who you are. But now when we have language and we give them language for who they are, they will know how to manage that in different settings. But understand that it's meant to be celebrated, not just tolerated. So let's go on to the next power trait. Next, we're going to be talking about, I know a term that we are all very familiar with. And this next one is modalities. All right, modalities. Now, when we're talking about modalities, we know that this is the way that we process or take in information. All right, so we have heard it said, I know somebody's auditory and visual and kinesthetic, but what about the differences within modalities? So we know we talk about auditory, but does that mean that I need to just have background noise, ambient noise? Do I need music? Do I need a song? Do I appreciate a lecture? Verbal explanations? Do I need to read it aloud to myself? It's not just the modality in and of itself. our kids are as unique as our fingerprints. And so if we just try to say, oh, auditory, so we're just going to go ahead and, throw on a lecture and they should get it because we did the assessment and they're auditory. No, this is going to take a little bit of digging. Our modality is just one aspect of our power traits. So we can't just label someone auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. Even within kinesthetic, what kind? Are they learn better by drawing, by taking things apart, being hands-on, or a combination? And guess what? There's some things that I may need to learn hands-on by taking things apart, and something else that I absolutely need to learn by way of some visual aid. So I want us to really begin to understand that as much as it seems simple, it is so nuanced. So when we can learn that we talk about auditory, like, is that listening or verbal? Do I have to hear it or do I have to hear myself say it? When we talk about the visual modality, are we talking about pictures or are we talking about print on a page? When I talk about kinesthetic, is that hands, whole body, sketching, writing? Because every time I take these assessments, it always comes out that I'm kinesthetic, and I'm like, I don't like to move a lot. I don't run. I mean, my mind is active, but I realize like there's whole parts of this whole kinesthetic piece that I have not even considered. So, and I want to encourage you guys. I know that I'm giving you guys a lot, but Principal Johnson has advocated for me to create a resource page for you guys. So there's going to be resources galore that's going to be shared with you that's going to take what I'm saying, just as I'm giving you this overview of what power traits are and why they are important, that you can begin to develop your own strategies or build on the ones that are shared so that you can customize it to the students that you have. Because I don't know about you guys, but one year you may have one group of students and the next year it may look totally different. So we can't just put this on autopilot and just expect that, oh, I'm just going to throw auditory aids up or I'm going to do some visual things and the students should get it. That may not necessarily be the case. And this is another area that I want to empower you guys in. Let your students figure out what their power traits are. Give them language so that when they're at home studying, that they can say, you know what, I need to get on YouTube and watch a video about this. Or I need to find a way to do this. So they now can begin to advocate for their own learning. Everything is not your responsibility, but as merchants of hope, we are guides alongside and we can give them the tools that they need to advocate for themselves, not just in your classroom, but guess what? In life, in families, we have to figure things out. And if we know what our modalities are, they can come into play in those settings as well. So I want us just to understand with modalities, once again, a term that we're very familiar with, but I want to encourage us to make distinctions within modalities and how they're expressed in different learning situations. All right, let's get to the next reflection piece here. What was one mode you needed to learn a challenging concept? Or what was one mode that caused you frustration when learning a challenging concept? So you may have been trying to learn about the Civil War and they gave you a very thick textbook and was like, read it. But if you could have just seen a documentary on it, or if you were supportive disposition, you could have just had a conversation back and forth about it. Do you guys see how dispositions begin to show up in modalities as well? You have that spontaneous disposition that probably has so many of the kinesthetic modalities. It all works together. And that's what I'm encouraging us today, is to not take them in isolation. All right. So, and even asking those questions, I just want us to understand that there's some modes that are like, I can do this. And then there's other modes like, oh my gosh, if you don't show me a visual or give me some sort of other way to interact with this material, I am not going to get it. And the goal is for them to get it. So we're in a technology age now where there's so many things that are accessible that probably weren't when some of us were in school. But yeah, so that was our second power trait. Now we're going to go into one that I think everybody can work with or at least help students to implement. And these are our environmental needs. What are we talking about when we're talking about environment? These are the things that affect how we learn. All right, because our surroundings matter. They affect how we think and learn. If you guys are too hot or too cold, if any of you guys are sitting in that room right now and you're hungry or you're thirsty, you're probably having a very difficult time listening to what's being said at this moment because your stomach is talking a little bit louder. All of these things affect our concentration. Now, when we talk about environmental needs, these are some areas that can kind of give us a rubric, so to speak, of the things that we need to maybe account for. Background sounds. Some people absolutely need ambient noise, a little bit of music. They just need somebody over there just maybe talking and they're well. And others of us, we need it just absolutely silent. Hear my thoughts, Time to reflect, please. All right. Body position. Do you do well when you're sitting at a desk and upright all day? Or would you prefer to sit on a couch or to lay on a bed? So many times we've been taught, you need to be, sit quietly, at alone, at a desk. That doesn't work for everyone. So if we can acknowledge that and honor that, how much more can we get to the thing that we're trying to actually accomplish? Lighting. Some people are like, I need sunlight. Some people are like, I need fluorescent, like I need the whole room just absolutely lit up. And then there's others of you who are like, you know what? I don't need that much light. I don't understand. I don't want to go into the light. So acknowledge that. You may not be able to change your classroom settings, but these students at home can modify light or whatever. These are things that impact our motivation, impact our mood, and we absolutely can do some things about that. Temperature. Some of you run hot, some of you run cold. You may need to travel with a little personal fan or cold water. Or if you run cold, a sweater, a sweatshirt. You ever seen just students in class just shivering? It's like you didn't want to just get a jacket. That would have alleviated that. So once again, tangible things that we can do. Colors matter. Research shows that, like, psychologically, when you're surrounded by your favorite color, everything about your mood is uplifted. Your favorite color. If you got a test, an assignment, whatever, put on that favorite color, blazer, sweatshirt, whatever the case. Get your notebooks in that color, your pens in that color. These are subtle things that we can do that impact and affect how we learn. Time of day. By show of hands, really, how many of you guys are morning people? You were just so enthused just to be up in the morning at 7 and just ready to take on the day. All right, morning people. All right, how many of you guys are midday people? By midday, you're just, all right, I'm ready for this. And how many of you guys are night owls? Can't even explain it to people. You just all hours of the night, just with the owls. So once again, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's to make the world go round because we need things happening 24 hours a day, but people are on different schedules. So if a student knows that they're not morning people, that's probably not the time to take calculus. You want to do something a little bit different. So set yourself up and set our students up for success. Groupings, interactions. Some people can work strategically and impactfully alone. Is that you? Can you just get things done? Like you just rather do it alone? How many of you, for show of hands, how many would rather do it alone? How many of you guys, look, if I don't have a team or a partnership or something, it's just not going to get done. It's just not going to get done well at all. I need interaction. I need people. So look at the needs. I think so many times we think that this is just like, oh, it's all optional. Yeah, there's sometimes that we need to be adaptable and flexible because that's what the situation calls for. Can you imagine contorting yourself every day into a model and a mold that just doesn't fit you ever? How enthused would you be to learn and show up on a regular basis? And last but not least, snacks. Hopefully they got some granola bars in the back room there, some sort of snacks. Because the thing is, if students know that like every day around 10 o'clock, they turn into a bear because the growling of the stomach has just become a bit much, let's get some snacks in there. Let's take care of those food needs so that we can be well. So when we talk about environmental needs, these are the things that we have some control over. I got a couple more questions for you. What was one need you needed honored to be well? What was one need that was not honored that caused you to be unwell? Because there's always two sides of the coin. What's one thing you need to be well? Or what's one thing that will cause you to be unwell if done on a regular basis? All right, let's go to the next power trait. This is number 4. This is interest. Interests are our greatest motivators. I don't know about you guys, but when someone is interested in something, you do not have to force them to learn. If there's a topic that you're interested in right now, I guarantee you got YouTube video channels, Spotify playlists, books, articles, because that is something that you want to immerse yourself in. So interest, when we're talking about our students or even talking about ourselves, it's at the forefront of our minds, of our students' minds, is what we talk about, ask about persistently. And so this is a nugget that you can even share with parents. It may not be wise to shuffle your kids to 1,001 activities, because if it's not your child's interest, they're probably going to sabotage it. Have you ever seen little Johnny who loves, like, oh, I just know that he's excellent at piano, and you try to take him and do piano lessons and it just doesn't work out? Because if the child is not interested, if we're not interested, we're not going to be all in. So a lot of times we talk about wanting them to develop and live up to their potential, but if we don't go through the back door of interest, we're not going to tap into their motivation to learn. So imagine you're in school, you're back in your high school days, and you got 7, 8 periods, and they're telling you this needs to be done. You need to learn this, and you got to be ready for college. You got to take SATs. And so all day long, you're being told that this is what you need to learn. It is important for us and our students to identify their interests, because now this is something that they are choosing. It can be restorative and crucial to their mental health because I now get to do something that I enjoy. Now, I've been meeting external standards all day, all year, ever since I was in kindergarten, but this is where I want to pursue my interest. So the caution that I want to share on this one is simply this. I know it sounds noble when we tell our young people, you should live up to your potential. And we want them to be a lawyer, be a this, be a doctor. But how many people right now are in positions that they have the potential to be in, but they are miserable because they did not learn to honor interest? When I do this workshop with parents, I'm amazed at how many of them cannot declare what their interests are, because when they became parents, everything became about getting little Tim to soccer practice and little Samantha over to gymnastics. So everything became about their kids. So what do we teach young people? We teach them that your interests don't really matter. And then it becomes adults who feels like interests are more of a luxury than something that really should be taken seriously. I want to encourage you to take your interests seriously, and also encourage your young people, because even if their interest is not the thing that they're ultimately going to do, because I've heard it said many times, like, really, yeah, what are you going to do being on YouTube all day or making TikTok videos? You know what? It may not be the thing, but it may be the thing that's developing the skills that will lead to the thing. So if we cannot minimize their interest, how many other areas will they learn to flourish in? We want to nurture potential. We want to nurture who they are, but it will behoove us to nurture it through the back door of paying attention to their interests. Because if you can tie what you're trying to teach them to their interests, I guarantee you they will be more inclined to devour the content, because now they have the hook of their interest to tie it to. So that's what I want to share about interest. So of course we have some more reflection questions. What was one interest that was acknowledged that you were thankful for? That you told someone that you collected rocks or stickers and someone paid attention to that, whatever the case may be. What were you thankful for that was acknowledged? Or what was one interest that you had that you wish was acknowledged? Like, no one took seriously that you were interested in going to outer space. They didn't know that that was really setting you up for a degree that would put you in these spaces. This last power trait that we're going to be talking about is talents. So I want to make this distinction. Our interests are not necessarily our talents. I don't know how many of us have seen American Idol and we were like, you know what, that's pretty interesting that you thought maybe you should sign up for this experience. All I'm saying is there may be things that they're interested in that may not be the thing ultimately that they're going to do, but let's not shut it down. Because maybe the person who went on American Idol who could not really sing, they still learned about marketing. They still learned about what it means to show up. They learned about what it means to persevere. So if we can allow it to do what it needs to do, then we won't be so quick to shut the process down. All right, so we're going to talk about the last power trait. And now we are going to be talking about our areas of talents and smarts. I always say this, and we need to make this really clear. The question is never if we are smart or if a student is smart. It's how are they smart? And just because schools sometimes only measure certain smarts, like it's very clear that we're going to be measuring word smarts or logic smarts or math smarts, like that's going to be measured. But what about the young person who excels in ways that we will never see in the classroom, because that's just not what the curriculum is set up to cover? So our smarts are our natural gifts and talents. And I do want to talk about how they can be mishandled. So our talents can be either active or dormant. They can be known or unknown. Sometimes I know you've seen things in students or even in your peers that they haven't even seen in themselves. Why is that? Because other people are typically more aware sometimes of our talents or our strengths or our smarts because we live with them all the time. So because it's as easy as breathing for you and it comes naturally to you, it's like, oh, everybody can do this. No, everybody absolutely cannot do what you do the way that you do it when you do it. So for ourselves, for our students, we don't want to diminish the areas that are our strengths and that are our talents. These are things that are often taken for granted. We usually have a combination of them. That's why you will see where there's some students who may shine in certain classes and you're in the teacher's lounge, you're like, I don't understand, like Jimmy's just doing really well in my class. I don't understand what's going on over there with you. Well, here's the thing. Because of his natural talents or strengths, he may shine in this area, may struggle in another class, or be disinterested or bored in another class because it's not in that talent or strength zone. So I just want us to begin to identify this. A talent would show up as an ease of learning. And you will also know that it's a talent because they're just like, oh, this is easy. I already been here, done. All right. So when we talk about the classroom and strengths, it's like at least letting them know what is in their arsenal. What is their seed been pre-packed with, and how they can use these smarts or talents or strengths to navigate the things that's being asked of them or that they're being encouraged to learn in this season. How do we mishandle strengths? We can mishandle them by forcing students to pursue talents that we observe they should be doing more of, or by failing to encourage a talent that they're interested in developing. Because all day long we can say, like, you know what, this young person is really good at sport. I know a person to this day, their son had an acumen for football, started him at a very young age, and he excelled all the way through high school to the point of getting a scholarship, just to get there his freshman year and to say, I never really wanted to play football. How disheartening is that? You spent Saturdays practicing, because football is everything. And so and this is more so a message for parents, we have to be careful that we don't live vicariously through our children, because we see so many things and there's things that we didn't get to do. So I want to make sure my kids can do everything, but they may not want to do all of those different things. So this is going to require a bit of humility here to recognize, like, yeah, they can do all the things, but where are we going to focus this energy at this time? So nagging and preaching to our students about fulfilling a talent that they're not interested in will typically fall on deaf ears. They'll be there, but they won't be listening. So that's how it goes back into the previous power trait, where we talk about how do we bring this all together? Because we just take this in isolation. Oh, I'm just going to study smarts and talents. Well, guess what? These are all the smarts and talents. I'm sure there's more, but this is the categories that we have. And we talk about these areas that just because they're good at it doesn't mean that they like it or want to implement it at this time. So you may have a student who you know is very people smart and supportive disposition. So I'm going to make them the group leader over this project. And in that moment, they're like, you know what? I don't want to babysit the whole group right now. This is not what I'm feeling at the moment. So just understanding, just because we possess something, it doesn't mean that we want to deploy it in every situation. So when we talk about these different smarts, so music smart, you know, the kid who's maybe humming or tapping the pencil or always kind of has like a beat in their head. It's that young person who just loves that their teacher let them make music, because that was a talent that I'm sure that person had. We talk about word smart. These are the kids who may do a lot of talking, but it's like, I don't want to shut it down, but how do I nurture it? The number, the logic, ask a lot of why questions. You have some young people who are mechanical fix-it smart. Something breaks down, they're able to put that thing back together, computer, car, it doesn't matter. They won't always get to do that in a school setting, but at least if you will give them the quick power traits assessment, let them see their power traits in their learning profile. They now say, oh, now that I know that I'm fix-it smart, where can I use it? Where can I make that come alive? That's what that resource is for. Picture, 3D. Like, you have some people that see things like with directions, they're just like, they can get you there. I am not. I got to use my GPS to get to the same place over and over again. I am so thankful for GPS because I don't see it. Picture smart people are definitely going to be probably your visual modality and some other things. So we begin to see how these tie together. Body smart. Body smart doesn't mean just, oh, they need to move every 15 minutes. That's not necessarily what it means. Body smart means I process and learn through movement. So once again, using the sports analogy, you may be able to use the whiteboard and have the X's and O's on the board, and somebody will get it. But this kid needs to be put on the court, put on the field, put in the same position that you're asking them to mimic. And now they get it because now they have muscle memory concerning it. We talk about those students who are very self-smart, very self-aware, people smart, like nature smart, animal smart. Yes, there's some young people who, look, some of us, we just need, you animal whisperers, I'm so thankful for you. I don't have the gift. Humor smart. A lot of times we can get offended at this one because they're seemingly cracking a joke or mimicking or doing something to draw out laughter in these spaces. But that's a gift. That's a strength. We all like to laugh, but we just want to make sure that it's happening at the right time. And then we have those life enhancement people. You can decorate a room. You can make the room feel special. You love going to their house on the holidays because you just can just taste the cinnamon. Like, just everything is in its place, be it gardening, be it cooking, be it how they put together their attire. That's all part of the life enhancement smart. So let's go to this final reflection question on smarts. What one smart did you allow to shine? And what one smart did you diminish or hide? I actually spoke to someone who's an adult now who said she made sure that she did just enough to be average and not be below average, because she didn't want to get picked on. She didn't want to stand out. She didn't want to be like, why can't you be more like this person? So she literally gauged all of her assignments and her work around, what can I do to be right in the middle of the pack? I wonder what would have been different if she did not diminish or hide who she was. Because that mentality, I can tell, is still impacting her today, not wanting to outshine anyone. Or the thing is, you can't outshine the next person because we're not the same. We're not the same. So I want to thank you guys for being on this ride with me. When we started this whole process out, we talked about what you needed to thrive and what would cause you to wither. My aim in sharing these 5 power traits is to arm you with a lens or a framework for you to begin to think about, what can I do? What can I curate to help my students thrive? We want to discover, acknowledge, and cultivate the seed of who our students are, not who we think they should be. I'm saying, if we can avoid the kid life crisis, maybe we can avoid the midlife crisis. If we can understand who we are and how we wired and how we show up best, maybe we will just start showing up as our best selves. Let's heed the seed, and we heed the seed by recognizing what they need. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you again, Principal Johnson, for having me, Mickey, for being my boots on the ground. Thank you, because without all of you bringing your power traits to the table, this couldn't have been. Thank you, and you guys have a great, great rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Woo!
All right, can we give Mrs. Fascion an arousing applause? She persevered through it all. She was amazing. The I Am Project. Don't forget this. I hope you appreciated this. I want to thank Mrs. Fascion again. Can we give her another rousing applause for that?